Westbrook Health Services has been supporting the surrounding community since 1949 and is known as an agency that is community-focused, people-driven. As one of West Virginia's 13 comprehensive behavioral health centers, Westbrook provides services to 8 counties throughout the Mountaineer State and became one of the first comprehensive community behavioral health clinics in West Virginia in 2020. This podcast wouldn't be possible without the generous help of the Sisters Health Foundation. This year marks 25 years since the foundation awarded its first grant, and we couldn't be more grateful for their support. Welcome to Studio 2121.
Hello, welcome to the podcast, Studio 2121. This is the host, Kevin Trippett, and with me is Keith Bryant, and we're here to record episode 18. We had a great year in 2022. We had one podcast, our third podcast, that had over 500 views. And if you are enjoying the podcast, and hit us up with a like so we can share this and get this out to others. We will continue putting these podcasts out there for educational purposes and awareness for behavioral health issues that we're having in the community. And so today, Keith and I will be talking about a couple of programs that we have related to helping individuals with substance use disorder. These are community-driven programs, and we hope that to bring awareness and that maybe you are able to identify those that might need our services, or you may be able to help us as well. So Keith, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And if you haven't seen, Keith did a video for us on how to use fentanyl test kits. And so do you want to talk about the importance of those kits and why we did that?
Sure. The fentanyl test kits are important for the individuals that may be wanting to know if there's fentanyl in the substance that they're using. At Westbrook, we use them as a harm reduction tool because if we can distribute those fentanyl test kits, it allows the individual to test the substance they're using to see if fentanyl contains it, if fentanyl is in the substance they're using. If so, it can let them know that it is present, and that may deter them from using that substance. So that's why we're using it as a harm reduction tool in the recovery process for individuals.
So the neat thing for me, it creates a touch point for us. We get to talk with the individuals, we get to start the conversation. Hey, here's a way to make sure you're safe. But in addition, if you come a time in your life that you feel like you need help, we're here.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're able to give contact information.
Absolutely, yeah. We always leave contact information. We leave open access information if they would like to become a client. We also leave them with contact information for peers that are talking to them at that time. So if they have a change of heart and they would like to receive services, they can always contact us at any of the phone numbers provided.
Okay. And then we do the same with Narcan as well?
Yes, Narcan is the same. We distribute it for free to those that are willing and accepting to receive it, and we also provide them on-the-spot training if they've never used it before or seen it. It's also a way for family members to have it on hand at their home, just anywhere in general. The YMCA, gas stations, anywhere that Narcan be accessible for the public.
So fentanyl is kind of a way as to get ahead of it. Narcan is if you've gone too far.
In a sense, yes. Also with the Narcan, there are 2 different types of Narcan. There's a 4 milligram nasal spray, and there's also a new 8 milligram, which it's called Cloxidel. Okay. So it was just available there, I think, 2 months ago, and we have received those and have been distributing them in the community as well.
Okay. So some of the programs that we have at Westbrook that helps distribute these is a quick response team. I've talked about quick response team before, but we'll go a little bit more in depth. Keith can tell us how it runs and the type of individuals involved with that. But the premise behind a quick response team is for us to be aware an individual who's recently overdosed, with as much or as little information as we can gather, we go try to find them in a community and try to touch base with the individual and see if we can provide help in any way to help prevent them from continuing down the path towards a future overdose. So, Keith, if you don't mind just telling us the players involved with quick response team where we're doing that service and the
Absolutely.
benefits you've seen from it.
Sure. The QRT team consists of 4 peers. Of those 4 peers, we also have involvement from local law enforcement. We also have involvement from our EMS, St. Joe's Ambulance Service, and the 911 Dispatch Center. So if an EMS shows up and responds to an overdose, they then try and get as much information as you're talking about. The more information, the better for us. But they are then able to go into what's called core data and report the overdose. And then we get weekly lists. Every Monday and every Thursday are our QRT days from our court liaison. And based off that list, we compare it with our 911 list of overdoses. And then we get with local law enforcement that accompany our QRT team, and they verify the addresses, and then they come up with a formulated route to how to navigate through the community and checking up on those individuals. The hardest thing that we've come to find out is making contact, because a lot of the population we deal with are transient, so they may overdose here in Wood County today, but then they may leave the area as soon as they're released or whatever they have, or go back to family or wherever they end up. Coming in contact is the most important part of it. Once we make contact, we try to encourage treatment, services, just anything to get them some help that they need. We do not have them come to Westbrook. We always go out in the field and meet them where they're at. We seem to have better success with that, because you try and get someone to come into Westbrook and they're like, oh, I'm coming into a bunch of people and I want to be discreet or private about it. That's why we come to you where you're at. And that's usually at the site of the overdose.
Okay. You said law enforcement assists you with this.
Absolutely, yes.
What kind of role have you seen them play, and what benefits have you seen with law enforcement being involved?
There's a lot of benefits as far as staff safety. The individual we're responding to, their family members, the community in whole. When people see law enforcement, they tend to calm down a little bit, but then there are times that they're on edge too. So protection is law enforcement. So they're a very vital role in this, and they always show up and go out with us, and very receptive and helpful to the overall program in general.
I believe we also have someone from EMS there as well.
Yes.
And so what role do they play with the team?
EMS, when we go out on Mondays and Thursdays, we may respond to an active overdose. So that's a benefit of having EMS there, just in case if there is some type of medical issue that they're able to assess and get to the individual quickly, and then they can radio into a squad if need be. It's another outlet for community help if we need it at that time.
And safety.
Safety, absolutely. Yep.
And so the main staff that we have participating is peers,
Mm-hmm.
individuals with lived experience. The benefit for the peers, having peers there, is relatable experience, and they can relate to the individual.
Absolutely.
Hey, I've been there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so. All of our peers have to have a minimum of 2 years of clean time, and there are many hours of training and supervision that go into before becoming a state certified peer. So everyone on the team does have lived experience, and that's kind of the common ground, meeting someone where they're at, but then again, the staff have lived experience, have been there themselves, and they can relate with them, and sometimes they come back with an individual, we get them started with services, and then they can become successful if they work their program appropriately to their liking. So.
You said that they go through a state certification process. Can you talk about that, and what do we do to help individuals pass that test?
Yes. I don't have all the information memorized, but just a general overview. You have to have 500 hours of supervised time. You have to have 46 hours in domain-specific areas: ethics, boundaries, wellness, advocacy, just to name a few. And then you submit once you get all the requirements, you fill the application out, we submit it to the state, and then from there we wait for an approval or denial. If it's approved, great, then they'll then open the portal for you to schedule your test. If it is denied, then they send the application back, and then we either get the appropriate training or we do what we need to do to make the application acceptable through the state's recommendations.
how much benefit does our peers get from our Relias program?
Well, when I first came in this position in July, there wasn't very much peer-related material. But after speaking with HR, and there are many different Relias trainings out there, Relias has helped a lot. But we're seeing that the more in-person trainings that we have, you get more group interaction, you get more feedback. So Relias has really helped a lot, especially with new staff coming in. It gets them trained the appropriate way to how to engage with someone, a little bit of resources, and letting the person we're coming in contact with make their treatment plan. We have suggestions, but at the end of the day, we want the person to be able to say what type of treatment they want, how they would like to go about their treatment.
Something else that I think we work on, I hope others do as well, is we do ongoing clinical supervision with all the peers.
Yep.
We try to give them an outlet to be able to decompress.
Absolutely.
And so, you might talk about the advantages that individuals see with that process.
Yeah, every Wednesday we have a peer meeting for all the peers in the agency, and we're gearing that towards the peer needs. What are some of their barriers or roadblocks, or are they having issues that they may need assistance with? The best way that I've seen throughout the agency is peer-to-peer contact. Even though you're our CEO, I can come to you and talk to you and get advice, or you point me in the right direction. So it's kind of how our peers are. Granted, at the end of the day, two peers working together can be a really, really good thing. I've seen great things come of it, and that added support, it's what it boils down to. If we have support, then we're able to help one another, but ultimately we're able to help our community and try and get a grasp on this substance use issue that we have.
Yep. So if you are someone with lived experience and you're looking for a job, please don't hesitate to look us up. We have positions. We have various peer positions. It doesn't have to be on our quick response team or the QRT team. We also have peer positions that help with individuals that are incarcerated, that are getting ready to be released and need to get into services. Sometimes their release is conditional upon getting into services, and we can assist with that. We have a peer position that's involved with the governor's Jobs and Hope program, with helping individuals get back into the workforce and gain the resources they need to be able to get back to work. So those are some of the great programs that we have going on right now that are peer related. We also have a LEAD program. It's Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion. It is to help individuals that have been arrested to potentially be abated of charges. They can agree to completing treatment. And so Keith works very closely in that program, oversees that program, and works with law enforcement and magistrates and the prosecuting attorney with that program. So could you give us a little bit more information on the LEAD program?
Sure. As you mentioned, there's a lot of involvement through our court systems as well as law enforcement. With the LEAD program, there are 3 different ways to get into our LEAD program. There's a pre-arrest diversion, and to go into a little bit of an example of that is, say I'm at Walmart and I'm shoplifting to support my drug addiction. And then Walmart calls law enforcement responds, they give me a ticket for shoplifting, but then they're like, they may see something in me that, maybe I can call Westbrook, the LEAD program, and give them an alternative. So they'll call our LEAD on-call phone, and then the peer will show up at the location where they're at, assess the location. If they feel safe, law enforcement will then leave, and then the LEAD peer will then get that person into some type of treatment, whether that be inpatient treatment or get them started in outpatient services. If they're accepting of the program, then we will then take them in and work with them for a 6 to 12 month period. Within that 6 to 12 month period, If everything goes well, you're compliant with treatment, you pass your urine screens, we give a report to the courts saying how you're doing. We'll then send a completion letter, you'll have a status hearing, and then your charges will be dismissed. That's the very neat thing, that the court is willing to do this, law enforcement's on board with it. So that's just one way to get into the program. We also have social referrals, which come through our homeless coordinator here in Parkersburg. He'll bring them he'll find them on the street, bring them into Westbrook, and then we start working trying to get that individual into treatment, or once again into outpatient treatment, just depending on what they would like to do. Then the last way to get in is through our magistrate court. We have a lead agreement with the magistrate court. Our peer will go in, tell the individual the different things they have to do to fulfill the lead agreement. As long as they do so and work a program within that 6 to 12 months, that charge goes away. Now, if they have a few hiccups here and there, we are able to restart that time frame over again. But then again, if they're not compliant at all, they're not willing to work, not willing to come in, then we will send in a revocation letter, and then they will face those charges. It's a big program. It's hard to really explain it in depth. It's more, once you behind the scenes get to do it, you learn more every time that you go in and work in the courts and work with individuals.
So what are some of the successes you've seen with that program?
I've seen, in my short time, I've seen some very, very good successes. I've seen individuals, that's the beauty of recovery in general. I love seeing people come in day one, because day one, they're not at their best. They're not at their peak performance range, I would like to say. But day one, and then seeing them transition, going through detox, and then going into a 28-day, and then at the end of that 28-day period, you kind of have a changed person, not only just in appearance, but their mind seems healthier. They're able to have eye contact. They're able to have a conversation and be somewhat normal. So there are many benefits to it. We've worked with individuals for 6 to 12 months, and they're now working. They have their kids back. Their families are receptive of them coming back in the home again. There are many different things that I'm grateful for that the program is able to provide. And without the support of the peers and the different community stakeholders, none of this would even be possible. Yeah. So
it really is a great thing to see somebody able to get their life put back together and get back to work and get their family back.
And the stigma with court is, a lot of people think I'm going to court, I'm going to get a fine, or I'm going to jail. But at the end of the day, this is a way to reroute that thinking into something positive, because now it gives you something to work towards.
Right.
It's
a chance for a fresh start.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know too many people that would like to have charges on their record, but this is a way to get those charges dismissed and not on your record. So it's a real nice thing.
That's awesome. So with our work with law enforcement, and I know you're not heavily involved with this, but you work with the teams that are. We also have a crisis team that is one of their main functions is to be available for law enforcement. They run into an individual in the community. They don't know how to assess the individual. That's not their job. They're not trained to do that. As the individual may be causing problems, but may be related to a mental illness, may be related to a substance use problem. So they're able to call us. We'll go out, send an individual, and help them do that assessment and get the individual an appropriate services or placement. Maybe we may say, hey, this individual, you're better off taking them to jail, or we can help, but we can get them services. So have you heard some stories related around that?
Yes, I have. A couple weeks ago, we got a phone call from our city law enforcement, and they had a 90-year-old lady with a 70-year-old caregiver. And I don't want to go too far into it, but the caregiver was having some mental health issues. The city police called our lead on-call phone. We picked up, and basically, due to the mental health issues the caregiver was having, we were able to get an adult mobile crisis person out there to assess the situation. The crisis worker felt comfortable. Law enforcement was able to leave that scene to go back to do normal duties. And the crisis worker brought the two individuals in and were able to get both individuals the necessary help that they needed. So instead of tying law enforcement up on a call of what do we do, are there resources for this, within 20 minutes law enforcement's back patrolling, and we were then able to take care of the two individuals in need.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is something that our former Chief Martin had asked me, can we get something like this in place? And I told him, give me some time, we'll figure it out, and we have been able to figure it out and get the resources in place, and it's been very successful, and I'm very excited about it.
Also, with the adult mobile crisis team, we have the youth mobile crisis team as well, and they do basically the same thing as the adults, but they're more focused on the youth population. I believe it's 0 to 17, 18, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So they respond to the home. They have respite programs. So it's not just for adults. There's the whole age group for everybody. So it's a neat dynamic to see.
Yeah. So, Keith, you've been with us for how long now?
I just started my 11th year.
11 years.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome. And in that time, how many positions have you had with us?
I can run through them the best that I can. I started out here at a group home on 36th Street. I worked there
as a BHT?
Yes, as a BHT. I worked there for about 18 months. And then from driving clients from the group home to the bowling alley to CFT, I was able to then land a position in CFT. I worked there for, I think, about 3 years. From CFT, the regional youth peer position came available, so I shared my story with my colleagues when interviewing for that position. I held that position up until the beginning of COVID, and then I was lucky enough to get in with our IT department, where I was a telehealth coordinator and getting everyone used to Microsoft Teams. Fun, enjoyable. I've touched every computer in Westbrook, so from there I was fortunate enough to have the position I'm currently in, which is a QRT lead program director. So just learning the different programs, learning Westbrook in general, learning community resources. You're not going to do that in a weekday, month.
Right.
It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of networking and talking, meeting new people.
Yeah. And I asked Keith to share that is because he's just another example of your ability to work your way through Westbrook and gain knowledge and experience and elevate your career if you're willing to work hard and have a great attitude and do what is needed. So we appreciate the things that you do for us.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the staff. My first day in this management role, I went to a longtime employee and I said, "What has made you successful here?" And he looked at me kind of funny and he's like, it's about the relationships you build. And so with that, I kind of put that on my list, and it's just, and he's right. Building and maintaining those working relationships at the end of the day. There are times that I'm in need, my staff's in need, and I have those contacts to make a smooth transition or to get what the client needs at the end of the day. So those relationships are very important. Yep.
Well, that will conclude this episode of Studio 2121. We thank you for listening, and if you know of anyone in crisis or in need of services, feel free to call our crisis line, 304-485-1725. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and share it so that we can get the word out to others. Thank you, and have a great day.